Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at a deal? The numbers made sense, the comps, checked out, everything on paper said go, and your client still didn't pull the trigger. That's not a market problem. That's not a pricing problem, and that is actually a fear problem. And today's guest has figured out how to solve both sides of the equation. Crystal Gargiulo spent years as a commercial and residential appraiser. She knows what a property is actually worth down to the square foot. But she's also figured out something most agents never learn, that the biggest obstacle between your client and the closing table isn't the inspection report, it's the voice in their head. This is Lancelot's Real Estate Roundtable, and today we're going inside the heart behind the house. My guest today lives in two worlds, and that's exactly what makes her dangerous in the best possible way. Crystal started her career in the trenches of commercial and residential appraising, where every number has to be right and every valuation has to hold up and under scrutiny. But somewhere along the way, she realized that getting the number right wasn't enough because her clients' biggest obstacles weren't in the spreadsheet. They were in their own head. So she founded the Resilience Lab, became a certified coach and hypnosis facilitator, and now helps people break through the mental barriers that keep them from making the biggest financial decisions of their lives. She's a South Florida Realtor who brings the data and the heart. Crystal, welcome to the roundtable.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Crystal, you come from the appraiser world, commercial and residential to be exact. How does that background change how you evaluate a property compared to an average realtor?
Well, data is the foundation of everything, but it's so much more than that. It's not just how many bedrooms a property has, how many bathrooms. It's, what's going on in the microcosm of where this community is, what's going on with the economy. There's so many different levels to coming up with a value for a property. And my background being in the appraisal side, I was scrutinized, just like you said, for every single number that I came up with. I became an appraiser in 2007, right before the world ended in real estate. So I got this fast pass into what I was supposed to be doing, how I was supposed to be doing it. And it was really just all about the intrinsic data. What does this mean? How does it mean? What does it mean for a buyer? What does it mean for a seller? So when I look at a property, I take all of that knowledge and apply it to every single property that I'm analyzing. So I can't just look at a property and say, oh, there's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and there's another 3-bedroom, 2-bath. They must be similar, so they must sell for the same price.
So can you get into the nitty-gritty about that and see, tell us what you see that most agents literally walk past?
So I think it's not necessarily what they don't see, it's just they don't know how to extrapolate the data. So for example, there are 2 properties that are identical, and one has impact windows and roofs, and the other one has a 20-year-old roof and no protection. So obviously the one with protection is going to be valued more than the other one, even if the other one has an updated kitchen, like the whole entire property is renovated. So that's something, they are not the same. It's definitely, windows and doors right now in South Florida, that is a game changer. That's where you're able to truly get more value. And
a quick example that where like a deal where your appraisal skills and eyes caught something.
Let's think about this. So probably every day, but for example, I have a property currently that has a decent roof. It does not have windows, so we would have to worry about that. However, a client smoked in it for many years. So unfortunately, that is a huge devaluer. So when we were having the conversation about pricing, they showed me all the data in the neighborhood. Well, all the properties are selling for this much money. Why can't I list it that? And and so just being able to say, listen, your property's not going to sell for this. Let's price it in line with the market based on the current conditions.
That's awesome. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Nobody would think that smoking is a devaluing factor because it's not really physical. I mean, you could probably see some stains and that, but that could be covered over with kills. But still, it's underneath. It's inside the walls. It's inside a drywall. I know because I do commercial and I live and all that stuff. And that's one of the things that we look for when we're purchasing is like, oh, that's a smoker. Perfect. We take that one because we know that, okay, we're going to re-drywall the whole place, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to do what we need to do and we could get a better price on it as an investor. That's a good point. You can't really maybe physically see a lot of issues with it, but that's a big factor. So what's the most common valuation that South Florida buyers and sellers fall for when they ignore the data?
Well, there are certain automated valuation systems that
Is Zillow one of those?
might be
making some problems worse?
yeah, that their algorithms are not reflective of the actual data, or their data sets are larger, pulling from different areas. So that's why, with these automated valuations, it's one of the things that I constantly am, bringing, like, it's a pushback always, like, well, Zillow says this, and I say, okay, well, let's play a game. Let's list your house and turn the automated valuation off. And within 24 hours, it's valued for something else. And
okay.
I test this theory a lot.
So that's the conversation you have with the sellers usually is, hey, let's test it and I'll show you the difference.
Yeah, it's not necessarily it's like a pushback more out of curiosity is what I find, because I think people do rely on the data that I provide because it is legit and I have a lot of expertise behind me to support that. But it's still a question for them. It's still their mom saying, oh, yeah, I saw your properties, valued at this. Why are you going to list at this? So it's a lot of other people in their ear.
I love that. You know why? Because I think it was Cloud CMA or something like that. I started using that for a little bit. It's really fun because what it does with the CMA is it puts out a Zestimate comparison to sold. Like this is the Zestimate, and then it gives you a percentage that compared to the Zestimate, the houses sell for 9 or 10% less than the Zestimate is in that area. And that is it's eye-opening for the client to see that when they're showing you the and I know Miami because that's where I came from. They are Zestimate stuck. Like those guys are every owner is like, what's the Zestimate? It's like, yeah, it would probably work in a cookie cutter neighborhood that has, 400 houses that are built by the same builder and looks the same and all that stuff. It might work there as a data and there's nothing else to pull from. But we're talking about Miami. We're talking about, a couple million people living here and hundreds of thousands of homes. And it pulls data from, you don't know the nooks and crannies. Like, a good example was, what was that little area just north of the Fun District where they do the walks and everything?
Oh,
Vista.
yeah.
Buena Vista, And I'm like, okay, because that was one of the areas I worked. And it's 2 blocks from right to left, and it's about 10 blocks from south to north. The houses in there are different than the 11th block or 3 blocks to the west, or a block to the, to the east because that's Bay Shore already, so it's like, you got to take this little area and look at this specific area for pricing, correct? Am I right about that?
100%.
Yeah. And Miami has a lot of those.
I know. And it's same in Fort Lauderdale. It's like you can have a $500,000 house and a $5 million house within the same data set,
Yeah. Exactly. So that's why you don't trust this Zestimate, okay, guys? Zestimate is sometimes some sort of a guideline if you're thinking about listing, but call the agent or an appraiser. Pre-appraisals are really good, by the way, if you don't know what you're doing at one. Was there a specific moment where you realized that hard data alone isn't enough to close a deal?
Absolutely. It starts with how a client feels.
Yeah, walk us through
And
that. What happened there when you realized that?
so I can give you an example. I
Yeah.
had a seller who received an offer, and it was a great offer. It was in line with comparable sales. I sent her all of the data to support the number on this offer. And at the end of the day, she just said, I don't feel right about this offer. There's something that just doesn't sit well with me. And she stood to make a lot of money. She stood to achieve her goal of being able to move into a different house. And ultimately she just felt within her body that it wasn't the right thing. And I knew at that point, this is not the time to push her. This is the time to support that intuition, because that intuition doesn't lie.
Correct. And was that the seed that became the resilience lab?
I feel like the Resilience Lab has been 20 years in the making. I have always been passionate about serving others. I know we briefly talked about, being in the bartending business, and yes, it's fun and quick money and all of that stuff, but it really is at the baseline serving others, helping others. I feel like, we probably both made a huge impact on our clients. We probably brightened their days. We probably gave them some bit of wisdom in all of our glorious 20s. And so that has been a culmination of just really wanting to align with helping people on a deeper level. And so that was the birth of the Resilience Lab.
Got you. I mean, yes, we were psychologists as bartenders. That's one of our main professions when you sit there. Without a degree, though. The
Yeah.
degree is in the bottle. So the data got you to the table, but it was the human side that made you stay. Let's talk about the resilience lab now that we opened the can on that one, okay? A deal makes perfect sense on paper, but the client has massive emotional hesitation. How do you bridge that gap?
Well, I start by asking a lot of questions like, where is this coming from? Is this a fear based response that is just an old pattern that we need to address? Or is it something deeper? And a lot of times, clients, they don't know what the motivation is behind their fear. They're worried about it. They're worried about the unknown. They're worried about what could happen. But a lot of times I realize that once, nail down what they're scared of, you know, then, and you can address it and have them address it within themselves and say, okay, you know what, I name it. It looks like you're concerned about losing money on this deal. You're concerned about being able to resell it in 5 years and being upside down. And then we just kind of dive into it. We talk about the emotional side of it. The deal will figure out itself. It's just really at the core understanding, what their motivation is, why they want to, buy or sell, and what is the fear of holding, like what's holding them back.
Is it the same fear for buyers and sellers?
No, it's a little bit different. Buyers are concerned that they're going to lose money or that they're going to be paying too much for a property. That is one of their biggest concerns. And they are worried about being able to afford it because everything, especially with taxes and insurance, it's so expensive. So their fear is really based on, you know, am I going to lose money? Am I going to be able to afford this? And sellers are kind of the opposite. They're like, am I going to get enough money for this? Am I going to be able to, make enough money to make it make sense for me? Am I going to be able to sell it quick enough to be able to move on to the next chapter? It's all fear based, but it's still, it's different concerns between buyers and sellers.
Got you, got you. And how do you know when it's healthy caution versus self sabotage?
That's the tricky part because, some sellers actually know. Some clients in general are never going to show you all their cards in the beginning. They are always going to give you a story. A seller's going to say, I don't need to sell. It doesn't matter how long it takes. A buyer's going to say, I'm only paying this much money and I'm not going a penny, above. They pump their chest, they walk around and they're like, I'm cool. So once I get to know somebody, that's when I can kind of dive in and I can understand, because the first few times that I meet with somebody, I'm studying them. I'm studying their nonverbal cues. I'm studying their responses to questions. I'm studying like the deep sighs. I'm studying the energy all around. And so once I kind of can dial in on that, I can say, respectfully, I think that you might just be in this old patterning. You want to talk about it and see if we want to move forward, and just keep it in a way that is just going to be helpful. And, sometimes it isn't the right property or it isn't the right deal. And you have to be supportive of that as well. It's not always just about like making the deal work.
Gotcha. As a hypnosis facilitator and coach, what are the most common mental barriers that stop people from making major real estate decisions?
Well, on the surface level, they think, I can't afford it. That's buyers and sellers. I can't afford to sell. I can't afford to buy. But when you go down deeper, it's usually going back to the subconscious patterning. We are continuously doing things every single day. I think it's like 80% of our day-to-day activities are completely subconscious. Like don't even know why we're doing half the things that we do. And, when it comes to buying and selling, it could just be this thing that you've told yourself, oh, I can't afford to move. I can't afford to buy a property. I can't afford X. And, so that's one of the things that I see most in my clients, or people that want to be my clients but are afraid.
Gotcha. Can you demystify hypnosis for us? What does a session actually look like?
All right. So it's actually just like a intensive guided meditation. So I, as a facilitator, will allow you to kind of relax and get in touch with, that inner voice, your higher self. It can be called whatever, it's not really as woo-woo as, there's that some people make it seem. It's
not a clock.
I can do that. Yes, there are many different ways to go into hypnosis. That is one of them, and it is effective on a lot of people. My way is a little bit different, but it's really just like you are completely still awake. You're still conscious. Many times you're going to feel like, oh, I could just get up and walk out the door and I'm totally fine. It's not like I'm going to put you under so much that you're going to start like barking like a dog or clucking like a chicken or, any of those things. It's a very methodical and scientifically proven way to really uncover, deep issues, problems, and really just optimize your whole being.
That's really cool. I'm a big Tony Robbins fan, and he uses hypnosis a lot for a lot of things. And it's amazing, how he can get smokers to become non-smokers in, I don't know, half an hour session, not even 10 minutes. And crowds now too, which is even more incredible. Like he doesn't just do one-on-one. It's like whole crowds. It's crazy. Yeah. Have you ever used these techniques at a closing table in the moment, like closing?
No, because I have to have everyone's consent to be able to actually do it and for it to be effective. But I do utilize.
I was like thinking, like I could see that happening when they already know that you're doing this stuff. It's like, hey, can you just do a quick session before we go in, and just to give us the courage to get through this. I can see that happening. In
that regard, yeah, absolutely. I help people get through mental blocks. And that's in real estate and in hypnosis. That's my whole entire being. I just help people get from point A to point B. And I'm really literally just the facilitator. They have the ability to get there. They just don't have the roadmap.
I mean, I think you should start working in New York too, because I'd be honest with you, or Jersey. Whenever I get clients from there, it is punching through brick walls all the time. It is everybody like, I don't trust, I don't know, where are the attorneys? Where's this? Where's that? And I'm like, guys, this is the South. We
Yeah.
handshake deals here a lot of times. Of course we're in real estate, so we put it on paper, but we discuss it over the phone and then we put it on paper.
Yeah.
It's like a pre-made deal over the phone, and then here you go, just sign everything. It's the way we talked about it. And the people coming from there, they're like, no, I need an attorney to review this and give me 2 weeks to review and blah. And I'm like, okay, I'll go with the flow because that's what they're requesting. But a lot of times it is mental blocks because they get screwed over so much in a big city. It's not just New York, but Chicago, LA, Miami, any big city. It's just you're struggling from a day to not get screwed over all day. Like you're watching your back all the time. So I can see it really impacting people when you can open up these barriers to them and like, hey, once you like feel this, it's so much easier. Life gets
So much easier.
lighter.
It
Yeah,
really
life gets lighter,
And it's really
Can't
about
control everything.
yeah, it's about alignment. And if you conduct yourself in alignment with who you are and you authentically show up, there's not really many people that wouldn't naturally say, oh God, you know what? There's something about them that I just trust. And it really isn't that we're doing anything. It's just that we're showing up authentically. But there's so many people that have this boundary and this wall up that's like, I'm not going to let you come close to me because I don't know, how you're looking to screw me over. But, when that's one of the things. I just show up every single day, just like, this is me, I'm going to be authentic and vulnerable and tell you when a deal is awful and you shouldn't do it, or tell you, like, help you push through those like barriers of like, listen, I promise you, like, I got your back. I'm not going to advise you to do anything that wouldn't support exactly what you're looking to do.
Yeah. And for that, you need to open up so I know what exactly you're looking for. That's the truth, I can't help you, what is it? We have a saying in Hungary, you can't help a silent child, like
Yeah.
it's a saying that we have for if you don't tell me what your problems are, I can't help you solve them. How can resilience principles help clients stay grounded during a high stakes negotiation, multiple offer, bidding war, emotions running hot? How can that help? Give us like a real scenario. What do you actually say to them?
So currently under contract on a condo. Condos, as you guys know, are a big mess, and so there's so much more due diligence that needs to be done in order to allow a buyer to feel fully confident in moving forward. And even then, they're still hesitant because there is this unknown factor. And so last week I had a buyer and he was like, I just don't feel good about this. I don't feel good about the process in this. And so we kind of had to slow it down and say, okay, so what's really going on? Like, you don't feel good about buying the property. You don't feel good about the process. Like, tell me what's happening. And, it just really turned out that this is a dog friendly building. And he was just really afraid that they were going to, for some reason, not accept his dog, which was fear based, but it was not founded in fact, because they accept dogs, it's no problem. So we got on the phone with the president of the association on a conference call and we had the conversation. And once we were off the phone, he was like, everything's fine, I'm excited moving forward. Like, at that point he was like, I think I want to cancel this deal. And once we were able to dig deep into really what was happening, he was able to say, all right, cool, like, my questions were answered, now I feel like, satisfied with it.
It's awesome. That's something that you learn early in your career if you're with the right company to ask as many questions as you can to find out the real reason and motivation for a client. That is super important. I love that you did that, by the way, calling the HOA president. Sometimes they're hard to reach.
Oh, it wasn't easy to get on the phone, but I was persistent. I don't take
That's
no for
awesome.
an answer.
So you've got the data and the emotional toolkit. Let's talk about what happens when you put them together and work them all together. Why is it vital to bring a holistic approach to a transaction rather than treating it like a simple financial exchange?
It is this is an experience that affects every part of a buyer or a seller. especially if they're a buyer, we are moving them into a property that is their home, that is their sanctuary. And if we look at it as just like a transaction and focus on the data, that is not going to give us the full service that our clients need. It's more of, understanding like, hey, checking in. Okay, we're under contract on this property right now. How are you feeling? Are you feeling good? Are you feeling scared? Are you feeling nervous? Are you feeling happy, angry? Like whatever the emotions are, because you know as well as I do, like every transaction these days is an emotional roller coaster. You're super high one day, you're super low another day. And we're talking about clients. And the one thing that I've learned and being able to integrate is really just staying here. Client goes high, I stay here. Client goes low, I stay here. And I act as a pillar or as a lighthouse that is unwavering and unmoving. So no matter what they're doing, no matter how emotional they are, I'm able to be the calm, and I can back that up with, okay, remember we looked at the data, like this is a good price for this property. Or, you know, emotionally, like if you're angry about something, I'm not going to shy away from it. I'm going to dive into it. And I think that's something that a lot of agents are scared to do. They're scared if their client's a little seems angry, they're just like, I'm not going to call him. But in reality, that's when we have to like double down and go in and say, all right, we're going to figure this out. If you're just angry and you need to vent, let's go. And if there's really a legitimate problem, let's solve it.
So tell me about a deal where the holistic approach made the difference between closed and lost.
All of them. So let's see here.
An extreme one, if you have one.
Oh,
Give me an extreme one.
Lots of extreme ones. So I deal with a lot of divorces, as a lot of us do, unfortunately. And I work with attorneys that will give me properties that need to be sold. It's a contentious situation. I had one where I was selling some investment properties for a couple that was splitting, and the court was involved. So I had to go and sit in on hearings and, really be a part of the whole entire process. And it was dirty. It was nasty. They were just not getting along. They had two completely different viewpoints. And so I really had to, give them the data, as I always do, equally, but also, show up for them and say, hey, you know what? I know this really sucks right now. This is an awful situation that you guys have found yourself in. Let's figure out how we're going to get out of this and, be okay. And, it was a battle. It was a battle on both sides. It was a lot of conversations with both sides, understanding that we have to find a mutual ground just on this. And after that, you guys can leave and it's going to be fine. But during that time, it was very emotionally challenging. And, but we got through, we got to the closing table. Everybody walked away as happy as they could be. But it was a lot of emotional management. It was a lot of data, just trying to back up everything I was saying with hard facts,
Got you. And how has taking a human first approach impacted your clients long term? Not just at closing, but months and years later. Has a client ever said that conversation changed more than just their real estate decision?
I'd like to think that most of them are left better off after our transaction than when I first met them, because I truly do care about my clients. I care about their well-being. I care about their happiness. So, most of them I become friends with. I become, at least checking in a few times a year, just as, as a human to human, not because I'm looking for a new deal, not because I'm trying to get more business, but I'm just like authentically connected to them. And I truly just want anyone who comes in contact with me, my clients or otherwise, to feel good and to feel more settled and feel just, good about their decisions, good about their life, good about, everything is really kind of how I look at it. But, especially when there is a difficult situation, whether it's a death and I have to sell the person's property, or if it's the a divorce, or, a lot of times, real estate transactions are not the happiest events. And so that's when I really like to double down on the emotional support that I can give my clients, and really just show them that I'm present, I'm here, and how I am able to just continue on that support even after the transaction's done.
So real estate can feel very transactional. How do you bring radical authenticity to your career in an industry that doesn't always reward it?
Oh, I love this question. So, especially down here in South Florida, we are all about image and looking good, and the number of deals we've done, and the number of, what our GCI is, and how many, what our volume is. And I think a lot of times, especially if you're a newer agent, you get really brainwashed by this approach. We've all scrolled on social media and we're like, what is going on here? Like, everyone's perfect, everyone's life is so curated. And, it's nobody lives like that. I don't know anyone who doesn't have some sort of messy life that they're dealing with. And, so for me, it just feels much more in alignment to be able to show up and post pictures of my kids and me with no makeup on, and, all the aspects of my life. So it's a real approach to what I'm doing. I love my job. I am very professional. I know exactly how to do things and get things done, but and so many others do as well. But I think the element that people don't embrace is the vulnerability, is of the crappy days that we have, is the deals that we can't get closed, that we might have even gotten to the closing table, the stress that it puts on our spouses and our families, because our jobs are many times 24/7, where we can't really shut it off. But it's really just about, being real and showing up and just saying, this is me. There's no facade, there's no image. It's just, who we are. And for me, especially when I meet other agents that have the same, like, yeah, I'm a mom and I'm in my pajamas a lot of days. Like, those are the kind of like authentic, like, relationships that I love, because I don't want to see perfection on social media. Like, it doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't. It's been talked about for a time. I know, because when I was down in Miami, it was like, oh, you don't have the right suit on. You can't come to this meeting. I'm like, what are you kidding me? Like
Yeah.
how I sell houses in shorts and a shirt. And I'm like, you know what? Nobody cares.
No
Because
one.
they know who I am and what I represent. They know exactly why I'm dressed like that. Because from that showing, I'm heading to a job site where I have workers. Or from there, I'm heading to the next different meeting for one of my causes that I'm working on, or scouts or something. So it's like, guys,
Hmm.
I can't be in a suit all day long doing all the things I do. It
No,
just doesn't work out.
especially, yeah, especially when it's, when manual labor is involved, and we all know that we've all done everything from cleaning toilets to moving pavers. So some days it's sneakers and yoga pants, because that's the
Yes.
way we have to do our jobs. I mean, I don't know how
Love
you would look in yoga pants, but,
I
the
had my
shorts and shirt are fine.
South Florida is a true melting pot. What are your best strategies for connecting across cultures, personalities, and backgrounds?
Asking questions, learning about them. If somebody comes to me who is from another country, I understand that they have been immersed in a completely different culture. That's how they operate. The way they show emotions, the way they speak to you. All of those things are so important to understand. So really, like, coming into it with a very open mind and an open heart, and understanding that not everybody shows emotions the way that you do, but all you have to do is ask the questions, because that's when you can have the connection.
Yeah, I mean, it's so fun. I know that Miami's a melting pot, but anywhere you go in the States pretty much is a melting pot. Like we just had the international festival that I was a part of organizing here in Daytona, and we had 31 countries representing. 31 countries. And we're a
Yep.
small town compared to Miami, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we could pull out 31 countries from our neighborhoods and have vendors
Mhm.
from all different countries, artists from all different countries come and represent their cultures, it is everywhere. So you got to know how to talk to each other.
Yep.
And that's the spirit of America. You know, it's like,
Mhm.
hey, we're not just Americans. We are Americans with a lot of different backgrounds. You
100%.
know?
Yep. It's like certain cultures, they allow or they look for their family's input, everybody's input. So when people show up, it's not just the buyer, it's the buyer and their parents and their sister and their brother and everybody, because this is a familial decision, which is amazing because, here in the US, we, value autonomy so much. So it's really important to understand that we need to embrace everybody because we can learn something from all of them.
Yeah. So looking at the South Florida landscape right now, insurance rates, you know, everything swirling. What's the one resilient skill every homeowner needs?
To not argue with reality.
Is this different for buyers versus sellers?
No, none of them need to argue with reality.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where a buyer, you have to account for taxes and insurance. And if you have to start looking at a lower price point to make those numbers make sense monthly, then that's what you have to do. You can't complain about the insurance rates. They're not going anywhere. You can't complain about the new tax bill. It's not going anywhere. All you can do is make decisions that are going to support your long term goals. And, the same thing with sellers. Right now, we are in more of a balanced market, but so many sellers are remembering 2021, 2020, how their neighbor got 35% more than what we are going to list their property for. So it's just goes back to not arguing with reality. Reality is what it is. It's neither negative nor positive. It is just a way, it's just something that happens. And then the emotions and the thoughts that we put into it is what creates the positivity or the negativity.
I have two more questions. One is for someone listening who's feeling stuck behind a mental barrier they can't name. What's one small exercise they can do today to shift their perspective? And can
Stop
you
and
walk
breathe.
us through it? You know?
Stop and breathe. Be present. If you're standing up, put your feet on the ground. If you can feel your feet, if you can feel your hands, be present. There is nothing that can happen if you are just present. If you're worrying about the past, it's depression. If you're worrying about the future, it's anxiety. But if you just take every single moment as it comes and not try to put too much weight on it, both future or past, it is a really good way to help move you forward out of those blocks or those, stuck feelings.
Awesome. That's a great thing. Guys, breathe. Feel grounded. Last
Agreed.
question. Crystal, beyond the closing tip, what's the ultimate impact you want to have on your South Florida community through this combination of real estate and mindset coaching?
I want everyone to know that no matter what they're going through, whether it's real estate related or personal relationship related or work related, like we are built to survive. We are built to thrive and we're built to move forward. And my impact that I would love is for people to understand that you don't have to be stuck. Just to your point, the last question, you don't have to be stuck. There are ways to get out, and they're not as complicated and complex as people want to make it. It's about a simple action, it's about breathing, it's about being present and just telling yourself in that 1 second that you're okay. And if you have to continue saying, I'm okay, every second of every day for a while, then that's okay too. But really, I just want to leave this South Florida community better and brighter than when I came here.
Crystal, thank you for bringing something to this show that we don't get enough of. The truth that real estate is a people business disguised as a numbers business. For everyone listening, if you took one thing from this episode, let it be this. The data tells you what to offer, but resilience is what gets you to the closing table. Crystal is the proof that you don't have to choose between being analytical and being human. Go find Crystal, the Resilience Lab, freehomeownervaluation.info. All the links are in the show notes below. Subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to feel afraid, as long as they don't let the fear make the decision. This has been Lancelot's Real Estate Roundtable. Until next time, go build your kingdom. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us on Sir Lancelot's Real Estate Roundtable, where we've unveiled the mysteries of real estate together. Remember, in this kingdom of possibilities, every dream home is just a discussion away. I can help your real estate dreams come true. Just call me at 786-449-7518. Until our next roundtable, may your ventures be prosperous and your homes be filled with love and joy. Farewell, fellow knights of real estate.